Howdy, folks. I've been informed that I am an octopus that has robbed a watch store. Amber's waving. And here's some Reddit, or some time. Our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for calling my coworker stubborn and stuck up and complaining to HR? The last time I checked, you can't complain to HR about someone being stubborn and stuck up. just a thought. Hi everyone, obligatory on mobile throwaway account. So this conflict is making me feel like I work in an insane asylum and I'm hoping to get some help. It's centered around me, a 32-year-old male, and my coworker, a 25-year-old female, Clara. Clara and I work at an office together. Although she is younger and not as go-get-it as I am, she does have a tiny bit of seniority over me, if that matters. Now, for as long as I've been working at this office, I've baked and brought in something for everyone every Friday. Sort of a tame version of after-work drinks. Everyone has enjoyed my treats, and I've never had any complaints. Occasionally, someone will decline something if they don't like lemon, for example, or they aren't feeling well. However, Clara is the only person who has every single week declined. I feel like it's a personal attack at this point. Well, last week she declined again and I had had enough. I approached her and I calmly asked her if her and I had a problem since she seemed to be making a statement. Clara looked baffled for a second before informing me that she has a severe allergy to honey, to the point that she doesn't even go out to restaurants in case of cross-contamination. I think that this is either an excuse or another insult towards me. I asked if she was insinuating that I don't clean my cookware or follow basic kitchen rules, or if I didn't understand how to bake without honey. Clara said no, and that it wasn't a personal jab towards me, she just never ate food that she hasn't prepared herself. She seemed to get shifty and changed the subject by asking me to stop interrogating her. At that point, I had had enough, and I calmly informed her that she was being stubborn and stuck up, that this was clearly a personal attack on me, and I had no intention of sitting by and being bullied by someone like her. Flip the script, alright? I left there and went straight to HR and asked for an emergency meeting. Imagine, I'm going to pause for a second. Imagine that you thought your baked goods were so important to the company that you stopped the entire workday and pulled aside HR for an emergency meeting to tell them that somebody has not eaten your baked goods. I explained the whole issue, how this has been affecting the state of my work, and I feel like Carla is being deliberate in her actions. I also informed them that I didn't believe in this so-called allergy, and that it wasn't a good idea to have a liar on our team. They stated that they would speak to her on Monday. I felt justified all weekend. However, now it's Monday and my coworkers have been cold to me, which makes me believe that Carla has been spreading her lies again. Carla went to speak to HR about 2 hours ago and hasn't come back, which I see as a good sign. But my coworkers' reactions make me feel crazy and like perhaps I went too far. So, I'm here to ask you, am I the jerk? Alright folks, what do you think, jerk or not the jerk? Amber is bobbing her head up and down, indicating that yes, OP, you are a jerk, and I will agree here. You do not have any reason to force Carla to eat your food, right? Now, I mean, Carla's bodily autonomy on what she wants to put inside of her body is completely up to her, and you don't have to believe her whether or not she thinks she has a honey allergy or not. The thing is that at this point in time, if I were Carla, I would be probably pretty scared because you've been seemingly pretty pushy, and I would be concerned if you were deliberately going to put something in my food anyways, right? Because there are people who will do stuff like, oh yeah, I'll test this because I don't really believe them. And you sound, OP, like a person who's going to go out of their way to be like, I don't really care. I'm just going to cook with honey because I don't really believe her allergy anyways. I know what I'm talking about. She doesn't. And that's what the kind of attitude that I get from OP here. So yeah, OP, yes, you're the jerk. Don't force people to eat your food, or try to force people to eat your food. Also, maybe you're from a different kind of culture. Maybe your culture centers heavily around food sharing. And if that's the case, you have to understand that an office place is going to be a place of diverse worldviews. And not everyone's going to share in that same kind of cultural outlook as you. They're not going to view not sharing food as an insult. So you can't take this personally. She doesn't want to share food. She doesn't want to eat your food because she doesn't want to put her life at risk. And that is understandable. If every single time you ate someone else's food and you had to wonder whether or not it was going to cause a severe allergic reaction, you'd probably be pretty paranoid about food too, I would think. So yeah, you're the jerk. Anyhow, take care and good luck. You're the jerk. I have a hard time believing this is real, because how could someone be this self-centered and ignorant? She doesn't want to eat your brownies. Get over it. You'll face more rejection in life than this, so I suggest that you grow up and move on. So, you reported her to HR because she refused to eat your treats? That's weird and really petty. How does her refusing to eat your baked treats affect you? It just sounds like you're looking for a reason to report her from the beginning. You're the jerk. And OP replies, she's the only person who refuses every single week. She's clearly making some form of statement.
I think that maybe somebody is jealous of her seniority, because you did mention at the beginning that
Yeah.
she has a little more seniority, even though she's younger and not a go-getter.
Yeah. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Bringing Up My Daughter's Selfishness from Years Ago Whenever She Disappoints Me Today? Yes? What? When my daughter was 11, she was in the volleyball team at her middle school. My wife and I went to her games, and at one of the games, maybe two, I don't remember, when her team came out to the gym floor, we clapped and cheered and called out her name just like all parents were doing. We also waved at her, but she proceeded to ignore us. And she did see us. She made eye contact, yet very quickly looked away. Until then, she had never done anything like that before, and it really stung then, and it does whenever I remember it. That sounds like a you problem. Like, kids are going to be embarrassed by their parents every once in a while, and that's an important conversation to sit down with them and be like, hey, we're not trying to make you uncomfortable. Is there anything that we can do? Maybe she was just very nervous. I don't think that you should be taking that as a personal jab, OP. That just sounds like a very teenage thing to do. It sounds like you've kept this chip on your shoulder for a long time. We called her out on it, said, you're not going to ignore us while the family that loves you is out there to support you. She straightened up and started waving back at games. A few weeks later, her team drove in the school's bus in an away game, while I drove over 1 hour alone to watch her play. Wife had work. Not ignoring the stuff this time, but after her team won and everyone was heading home, I asked her, hey, who do you want to drive back with? Right in front of her coach, and she said with her team. I can understand that she wanted to be with her friends after the game, but again, it stung that she chose to let her dad drive all the way back alone, knowing I had taken a long time to get there too. Even the coach said, you sure her daughter's name? Trying to play off this awkward, painful situation, and she obviously said yes again. My daughter is 18 now, and she's a good kid. Don't get me wrong, but she has moments where she gets in moods and will say something smart, and I correct her. Sometimes I will bring up these two incidents whenever how she's acting in the present reminds me of the selfishness that she displayed when she was 11. One day, when I did so, she sighed and asked, why do you always bring up the past? What does it have to do with now? I said it has everything to do with everything, because the details are different, but your behavior is the same. You've made progress, but not enough to change from that girl who acted like you did all those years ago. My daughter says it's unfair to judge her from that time when she was young and apologized already, but I'm trying to have her grasp a different point, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk? Amber is nodding, indicating that yes, OP, you are a bitter jerk. OP, you're a parent. You're the adult. Start acting like it. What? Where? What? Why? Why do you need to hold this over your daughter's head? Just from your indication here, whenever she starts acting a certain way, probably is very tame and probably isn't that big of a deal. Sounds like your kid is just acting like a regular kid. And who guilts their child into driving back with them when they drove an hour to see them? You did that out of support for her, and then you guilted her, right? And so it shows that your support isn't free. Your support costs her something. It will always cost her something. You're always going to have to pay the piper when it comes to her family. And that's really what the message I get from here is. Like, you aren't really supporting her, you're just blackmailing her. So I think that, yeah, you're in the wrong here. You need to get over these kinds of things. Go into therapy if you need to, because this isn't healthy, and this isn't a healthy way to resolve conflict. You're teaching your daughter a really bad way to deal with conflict, and your method is literally bring up the past, guilt the person into accepting your point of view, and bashing them with it until they just get tired or agree with you, which I think is an extraordinarily unhealthy way of approaching conflict. So anyhow, take care and good luck, and get a good therapist. And probably one for your daughter too. You're terrible. Grow up, man. You're the jerk. Do you ever wonder why she was ignoring you or didn't want to ride back in your car? Sure, that's normal 11-year-old girl behavior, but I remember back when I was in 7th grade, I would choose to wake up early and walk 2 miles to school instead of my dad driving me like 10 minutes that it took. Lol, I still can't stand him. I was never good enough, and he was still overly controlling. I would stop bringing up what she did in middle school. I'm sure you weren't a perfect angel with no problems with your parents in middle/high school, so don't hold her to a higher standard. And OP replies, albeit the first to admit that I was a lot worse than she was in middle school and high school. I'm only calling out her bad behavior then and now so that she won't end up rude and oblivious. Yeah, that's the best excuse I've ever heard, OP. Right, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not wanting my husband to talk to my sister as much as he does? Throwaway account. I'm a 23-year-old female, and my husband Bob, a 31-year-old male, and my sister Mary, a 26-year-old female, have been talking a lot lately. We've been married going on 3 years now. Mary has been seeing someone for a bit over a year. Mary and I didn't have the best sisterhood growing up, but we reconciled shortly before my wedding. I even had her as my maid of honor, and I love having her as a bigger part of my life, especially since Bob and I have decided to start trying for kids. Since Mary and I weren't that close, Bob basically didn't fully meet her until a month or so before the wedding. Over time, they grew closer because of Mary coming by more. I've always known that they've had each other's numbers for emergency purposes. I have Mary's boyfriend's number as well, but only used it once for her surprise party a few months back. I didn't mind because I love the idea of a large blended family. However, a few weeks ago, my phone died and I needed to use Bob's to call my doctor. I saw Mary's name in his log list at least 8 times in a 3 or 4 day period. I asked him about it, and he just said that they chat sometimes about random things. He offered to let me read their texts, but I told him that I trust him and I didn't need to do that. A few days later, I came home from work and heard him laughing on the phone. I asked who he was talking to, and he turned the screen towards me and I saw Mary's name, and the call timer read over 2 hours. I just smiled and said okay and walked away. I didn't know really what to do, and I didn't want to overreact. Yesterday, Mary and I were shopping, and I brought it up to get her side. She brushed it off and said they just chat and her boyfriend has no problems because it's innocent. I tried not to let it bother me, but this was the last straw when we saw some cool figurines and she immediately said, "Oh, Bob has to see this, he'll love it," and snapped a picture and sent it to him. I kinda lost it. which is where I might be the jerk. I basically told her that it makes me uncomfortable how much they talk, and it seems weird since I never knew about it until I noticed his call logs. She called me insecure and let loose that they hang out in person 1 to 2 times a week, which is something else I didn't know. I knew Bob would go out, but I assumed it was with his friends. I left her at the mall. I drove because I was so upset, and when I went home, Bob and I got into an argument. My point was basically, if it's innocent, why is he hiding it? Bob threw it back and said he thought I wanted him to be close to my family. Then he said that I acted like a bee for leaving Mary alone in the mall over nothing. Her boyfriend picked her up shortly after, so it's not like I left her in the desert at midnight. I do want them to be close, but it just seems like a lot. I talk to Bob's parents a lot, and I go to brunch with his sister or help his brother with babysitting, but I've never had hours-long secret conversations or meetups. Am I crazy and insecure? Should I just let it go? I don't know how to feel. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk? Amber is shaking her head, not the jerk. This is a difficult situation. I don't think that you're overreacting at this point in time. I think that there seems to be something developing here, and I think you need to sit down and talk with Bob and try to get to the root of whether or not this is actually innocent or not. And this could be verging on an emotional affair. I think that it seems odd that you didn't know anything about this at all. You didn't know that they were hanging out. You didn't know that they talk for 1 to 2 hours at times. You didn't know that they call twice a day. And that's a lot of time to talk to somebody, right? So this does seem to be verging on something that seems like it could be problematic. And it could be that he has clicked with her in a certain way and now is favoring her. And I think that that's problematic for your relationship. One thing that I might suggest here is couples counseling. I think that that might be helpful in this situation to start working through some of this stuff. Even if this is completely innocent, it still is important for you to be able to talk about this in an open space with probably a third party mitigating this or moderating this. And that way you have an outside perspective on this. So yeah, that would be my thoughts. Anyhow, take care and good luck. Not the jerk. In 2 years, her husband and sister will post saying that they just fell in love and it couldn't be helped. He is having an emotional affair. It's what it seems like. It seems pretty likely. Not the jerk. To me, that's weird. You should have kept your cool and called a family meeting. I may be called names for now how I feel about this, but the whole situation of multiple meetups a week and hours-long conversations between my husband and sister just is odd. It looks like either you're both emotionally cheating or just plain cheating. It's too close for family, and how defensive they are getting is setting off the red flags. I wouldn't ignore it. I was insecure with my relationships, and the guy gaslit me saying that he hated jealous, insecure women, and he was on good terms with everyone, including exes. Got his ex pregnant and left the state a month later. I haven't felt insecure since, but the gut usually knows weird vibes. Yeah, you should trust your gut. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I have some tea. Amber has some tea as well. I got my tea wrong today, and let's see if you get it right. I get to read the joke today. What is the best day for making pancakes? Friday. That also happens to be the best day to make French fries. And I have Mega Mint tea. Thanks, Google, for getting that once more. Like, this is ridiculous. I want to lodge a complaint with Google for making my tea hard to guess. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving me a like, and if you didn't, consider giving me a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow. And Amber's waving bye. Bye!